Hello, BookTube. Welcome to the Literary Buffet. My name is Louis, and today I just have a very short book haul for you. Book haul inspired in part by BookTubers. So let's get started. The first two are actually inspired by the French booktuber Délivrez-nous. She did a video quite some time ago, but I just came across it very recently, where she demystifies 5 cliches about medieval literature. And some of the books that she presents there, I'd never heard of, and they sounded really interesting, so I had to get them. I'll put the link to her video below, of course. And so the first of these books is Aucassin et Nicolette. I think in English is Aucassin and Nicolette. And it's the only French chant fable, which is a mix of poetry and prose. It's the only one in existence. But we suppose that it was like a genre that existed in medieval France. But more than that, it's actually kind of like a parody of typical literature in those periods. So towards the end of the 12th century or early 13th century, we don't really know. And because the author is anonymous. And so basically, it's a story about these two star-crossed lovers, Aucassin and Nicolette, and kind of like their adventures. But it makes fun to a certain extent of the courtly love a romance genre that existed in medieval times. It's quite short, this edition. It's actually bilingual, so you have the old French text on the one side and a modern French translation. Then the next one, also a medieval book. It's Huon de Bordeaux, or Huon of Bordeaux. It's an epic chivalry tale, kind of like the Song of Roland and then these kinds of things. This one is a bit less famous than the others, but it's also a bit more of an adventure type epic poem. Basically, Huon of Bordeaux kills the son of Charlemagne by accident and is then sent on some kind of crazy quest into the Middle East. It's actually one of the first, or maybe even the first work of literature where Oberon appears. So Oberon, who's then picked up later on by Shakespeare in A Midsummer Night's Dream as the king of the fairies, I believe. So he first appears here, and then this tale gets translated, reworked, reinterpreted in French and in Dutch and in English. So possibly Shakespeare has picked it up or picked up the character of Oberon from one of these reinterpreted editions that came later on. This is from the 13th century, more or less. Yeah, so second half of the 13th century. Then moving on to something completely different. I was looking for some female authors from Eastern Europe recently, and I came across this novel from Nora Ikstena called Soviet Milk. It's apparently a recent bestseller in the Baltic countries. So it was originally published in Latvian and then recently translated into English. It's a quite short novel, and it's about a mother and her daughter in towards the end of the Soviet Union in Latvia. That's all I know about it. States here that it was a literary bestseller that took the Baltics by storm. So let's hope it lives up to the expectations. Then next, it's a book that's kind of inspired by another booktuber, even though he didn't specifically talk about it. That booktuber is called Soul Book Club, and I'll also link to him below. It's a booktuber based in Seoul, and he talks about Korean literature. And I've seen or I've picked up a few books on his channel. And so this one, I don't think he talked about it, but I had heard about it somewhere else. It's by Yi Kwang-soo, and it's called The Soil. It's from the Dalkey archive. It might be out of print, This is a secondhand edition. It's a bit grimy, but I'll have to do with it. So Yi Kwang-soo is quite a controversial author in Korea. He's basically, so he's quite well regarded in terms of his literary style, but he was actually a collaborator with the Japanese occupation in Korea until the end of the Second World War. So obviously he didn't fare particularly well afterwards. He's actually from what is today North Korea. So for all those of you who are doing this read a book around the world type of challenge and you struggle to find a book from North Korea, this could technically fit. So Yi Kwang-soo was born in North Korea. He actually died in 1950 in some kind of murky circumstances. I mean, he was obviously considered a collaborator with the Japanese. So to a certain extent, he's kind of like the Korean Knut Hamsun or Celine. So an author who is well regarded for his literary output, but who's accused of having collaboratory tendencies or proclivities towards regimes that are a bit unpalatable. Then the next book is actually inspired by my recent read of Dracula that I just finished. I think Dracula, as I mentioned, is currently being read around BookTube. Steve Donahue is doing his read aloud of the whole novel. Randy Ray is doing a commented read along. So go check out their channels as well. I after reading Dracula and quite liking it, I had a look for other Gothic novels. So I found this one here, which includes some of the early ones. The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole, I believe, which was, or is considered the first Gothic novel, at least in the English language. And then we have by William Beckford, Vathek. And last but not least, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I was hoping that this was the 1818 version of Frankenstein, but unfortunately not. It's the 1831 version, which I already had. So it's a bit of a pity. But anyway, but at least it has the two other novels that I didn't have yet. And then last but not least, one book that came to my mind again because I saw it on, I think, some Steve Donahue video because he quite likes this book. It was on my Amazon wish list, so yeah, just clicked on it and decided to get it. It's from T. Lawrence, or Lawrence of Arabia, as he's known, Seven Pillars of Wisdom. So I think Lawrence of Arabia doesn't need any introduction. This is a non-fiction book, and it basically retraces, or it's a bit of his memoirs in the First World War when he was in Arabia dealing with the leaders of Arabia, and basically trying to get them on the side of the British. So that's it from me today. Thanks a lot for listening, and goodbye. Bye, BookTube.